over in my bag over here. I've used this before. I collect, in my travel, I travel extensively, I collect blank cab receipts that are given to me. Last Tuesday when I was at the CPA Technology and Practitioners Conference, I took a cab ride from the airport to the Bellagio Hotel. And the cab driver asked me, "What are you in town for?" "I'm in town to give a fraud presentation to CPAs at a big conference." "Oh, that sounds interesting. I hear a lot about fraud in the newspapers." Gave me 3 blank receipts. Oh no, it's better than that. I know it's a $10 cab ride. I know there's 2 ways out of the Vegas airport to go to the Strip, particularly the Bellagio. You can go down through the tunnel and come up 15 and come in the back way, which keeps you from having to cross the Strip. Or depending on the time of day, you go right up and over a couple of streets across the Strip and you're in. If you go through the neighborhood without traffic, it's about a $10 cab ride. If you go the other way around, it's 15. My meter going around 28 bucks. So he's this guy telling me about fraud's bad. Here's a couple extra receipts while he's running the meter on me. And I got out of the cab, I'm thinking, I got you. And I looked at the side of the cab. There's no phone number anywhere. I looked at the receipt he gave me. It was from a different cab company. I didn't like this guy. He smoked in the cab the entire way. This is a Ford Escape. And he's got the windows rolled up and he's smoking the whole time, talking to me. And I said to him, "If you don't mind, would you please put the cigarette out?" And he instead picks up the pack and hands it to me and says, "Sure, you can have a cigarette." So I figured, I'll get him. And even when I got out of the cab, he still got me. So he took me for a couple extra bucks, but he provided the means for me to get it back in the receipts. And the AICPA was the client, so what are they going to know, right? Got to get my dues back somehow. But I just stood there right in front of this beautiful hotel thinking, I'm not even 10 minutes from the airport, and it's already happening. Systemic. If this guy picks up 30 fares in 8 hours, he probably more there, $5, $6, you know, people run up and down. It's 110 degrees, not many people going for long walks between casinos. If he does this with everybody who gets in the cab, at least people who he identifies as being on business, that would be a guy who's by himself or a woman by themselves who came in from the airport who has bags that clearly they're on some type of business trip, and does that, how many of those 25 or 30 people are going to turn in an inflated receipt? Or they'll put in the real number from the airport, but then say they took another cab to dinner that night when all they did was walk across the street. It's systemic. You can't prevent it from happening. So all that aside, all that background, all that hopefully content for you to have deeper, more informed discussion perhaps with your clients and your own organizations about fraud risks. Let's go specifically to some things the CPA can do in client fraud risk management efforts and in your own, if you're on the inside, your fraud risk management efforts. I have 9 suggestions for you. They all come under the broad category of creating an anti-fraud environment, and this is internal control environment. And while there are many things we could talk about, I've chosen 9 very specific items for you for today. First one being, in your notes and up on the screen, effective governance and oversight. This is the overall environment in which the organization operates. It includes board members who are interested in transaction level detail where it's appropriate, refinancing, financial statement issuance, new hiring policies. They want to get into that level. And as appropriate, someone, at least one, who gets the financial and accounting piece of governance and oversight. The rules, the Sarbanes-Oxley rule of a designated financial expert in the for-profit, publicly traded environment works just as well, equally as well in the non-for-profit, and there are many state regulations and other best practice statements along this line. We want to make sure somebody on the board gets the accounting. And there's some confusion-based accounting in not-for-profits. I get that. Transfers from restricted to unrestricted and back and forth, and donor restrictions, and what does that mean long-term? I get all that. Endowment funds, I understand all that. I understand the issues. I don't understand all the accounting most days. It starts with having somebody at the governance oversight, could be board or very senior people, who get that part of it. I find boards populated with people who get the issues, the mission purpose, Number 2, strong control policies and behaviors. So, okay, here we are. Here's our topic of the day, internal controls. Internal controls are a process to make sure what is intended to get done gets done. It goes into all sorts of things like preventing access and accurate reporting of transactions as they occur, compliance with laws and regulations. But in the big picture, it is, what is it we're trying to do? What have we authorized people to do? Making sure it gets done. That's what internal controls is a management concept. How do we manage an organization? It's the things we do. Of our 9 ideas, effective oversight and governance, strong control policies and behaviors, of course, the soft controls and the hard controls. Third is a fraud policy statement I've mentioned before. It's a statement that says, our organization, like any others, has this risk. We need your help to fight it. Hey, managers, you need to know what can go wrong in your area, prevent it, and detect it, and call for help when something looks weird. I've been offering this document for the better part of 15 years. I tweak it a little bit every now and then. I don't put it in the notes simply because what I want to do is send it to you as a Word file. So if you'd like the sample fraud policy, if you've requested it in the past, it's not much significantly different in the last 2 years, the last time I offered it. But if you'd like to get it as a Word file, shoot me an email and say either Harrisburg everything or Harrisburg Roslyn, Harrisburg fraud policy. Just in the title, that's all I need. And that comes to me. I'm self-employed. It comes to me, and I will just take your email, connect the PDF file or the Word file, hit reply, and back it comes to you. But if you have it as a Word file, now you can tailor it. You can take it to clients and suggest it. You can take my 6-page document, make it a 1-page document or a 15-page document, depending on what their risks are. But you should at least have it and read it. Do you have a statement in the organization that requires people, number 4, to come forward when they suspect something? Are they required to report suspicions? Yes or no? Does the organization, number 5, provide formal or informal skills training on fraud risks to the staff and volunteers? Yes or no? Number 6, is there a hotline in place, and is it trusted by people? Have you performed a fraud exposure analysis, which is an inventorying, a listing top to bottom of what can go wrong? Our 3 categories: misappropriation, results reporting, corruption, macro, micro, systemic. Sit down and write it out. And if you'd like a guide on how to do that, July a year ago, just after I was last here, 2 years ago in 2008, a document was issued by the Association of Certified Fraud Examiners, the AICPA, and the Institute of Internal Auditors, called Managing the Business Risk of Fraud. Has anybody seen this or done anything with it? Again, 5 or 6 hands. This is a dry read. This is not summer beach reading. This is heavy caffeine intake early in the morning in 5-minute segments. It's about 40 pages on how you do a fraud risk assessment. So if you're a provider of services to clients, it's a document you could, if you're looking through our 9 items for ideas to improve the internal control environment, and you know they've never sat down and written out what could go wrong in this bucket of risks fraud, this is at least a giveaway item to them. Here's what's out there. And the 3 sponsor organizations, ACFE, AICPA, and Institute of Internal Auditors, speaking as one voice. This is a how to do it. But like a set of instructions on how you put together a piece of furniture, it doesn't read in the most interesting manner. Number 8, sort of a state of mind. Is the organization ready to respond or not? Last thoughts. 1, think like a thief when you're doing your brainstorming. Think not from the perspective of an honest person trying to do the right thing. If you're trying to assess fraud risks, you have to think like the person trying to fool the organization. Number 2, teach people the skills they need to know to be more effective at fighting this problem. This is classroom presentation, of course, but most days it is boss to subordinate, mentor to mentee, staff meeting discussions about what can go wrong, auditors certainly to client personnel, giving them that intervention idea, an intervention that might change their behavior to something better, a better question to ask. 3, where appropriate and within reason, look for the indicators, symptoms, or red flags of fraud. In fact, best still, build procedures including standard reports that show those red flags. 4, when you see something that doesn't look right, when you tell people when they see something that doesn't look right, pause and verify. At least pause and think for a second as opposed to just pushing it through. And 5, if you're not sure, Even after that quick check, dedicate yourself and counsel other people, dedicate themselves to refer it or follow up or escalate it as opposed to just walking past. Every one of these cases I've mentioned, every other one you read in the newspaper, with very few exceptions, were going on for a period of time. People noticed things. They chose to believe as opposed to doubt. They chose to pass it on as opposed to refer it. These frauds should not go on for a long period of time. Maybe a month, 2 months, 3 months. Gets beyond 6 months, there are other failures other than the internal control procedures. There's usually the human who did not doubt sufficiently. I understand the concept of balance. My job is to come to you for 90 minutes and preach fraud. But there's so many other things that need to be done in the risk environment, in the mission environment, in the client service environment. But don't ignore this one either. If you have thoughts, you have questions, I am on the panel this afternoon. We'll be seating right back up here with the rest of the folks. Write them down now before we forget. I always write down my own questions, and if nobody asks anything, I answer the questions I wanted. Much better for you to have yours. We'll take care of that this afternoon in the panel discussion we'll have right here in this room. If you'd like any of the information or you'd like tips on where to ski in Colorado, in the slides and up on the screen is my post office box address, which is the only address we have. We don't get mail at home. And my email address and my cell phone number. If you have the slides, make note of it. If you don't, I'll leave it up there for a minute for you to write down. Anything I can send you, anything I can help you with, including telephone conversations within reason, I'll be happy to do it. But email questions now or anytime into the future, no strings attached. That's completely up to you. Thanks for the time this morning. We're at break. See you in a little bit. Thank you. Thanks.